Assalamualaikum and good afternoon everyone. Today you will be with teacher Nisa from SMK Tunku Afzan Kuantan, and we will be working on English 1119 Paper 2 Section C for summary writing. In this session, we will be doing a revision on the exam format and requirements for Section C, question 31 in the SPM English Language 1119/2 paper. We will also be touching on some tips in summary writing. Exam format. In question 31 of Section C in the SPM English 1119/2, it is actually a continuation from reading comprehension questions in Section C. The objectives of summary writing is to assess students' ability to select and retrieve relevant information, use information given to display understanding of tasks, organize specific information coherently, paraphrase effectively and concisely, and present information accurately and fluently. Students are required to summarize an 800 and 1,000 word passage in not more than 130 words, including the 10 words that's given. Answer the required tasks based on the instruction given in the question. The instruction will usually let you know where to extract the points from. For example, line 19 to line 43. So you need to read the instructions carefully. Write the summary in continuous form and never in note form. Now, let's look at the marking scheme for this question. Summary writing is worth 15 marks. Marks will be given for content points, 10 marks, and language, 5 marks, making it a total of 15 marks altogether. For every content point mentioned, 1 mark will be awarded, which totals to a maximum of 10 points. Awarding language marks incorporates 2 categories of writing. Number 1, the ability to paraphrase, and number 2, the use of English, which assesses the ability to form original and extended syntax outside the text structures and language accuracy. The total marks of the language categories will be added and divided into 2 to get the marks for language. In order to score high marks for language in summary writing, you have to ensure that you have achieved the following criteria based on the table of descriptors mark. For paraphrasing, you must be able to demonstrate that you can paraphrase the sentences from the passage. It means that your writing must be original, but at the same time, retain the meaning of the content point you have extracted from the text. By paraphrasing, students are able to show the ability to understand the content of the passage. If you copy from the passage directly and do not paraphrase, you will only receive between 0 to 3 marks for paraphrasing. So, it is advisable that you rephrase the sentences from the passage in your own words if you wish to get higher marks. For the use of English, focus on the accuracy of the language. It means that you have to demonstrate the ability to construct simple sentence, compound sentence, and also complex sentences correctly. Writing in only simple sentences will result in a maximum of 3 marks for language. Serious and repetitive mistakes can mark you down to the mark of 2. As such, you have to be able to be very careful and allow some time to revise your summary to check for errors. By understanding the marking scheme, we can see that there are a lot of expectations in order to get full marks. For language, students have to be able to fulfill these 2 aspects, which are ability to paraphrase and language accuracy. In doing so, students are able to get full mark for language in summary writing. On the other hand, if students use note form throughout your answer, 0 mark will be awarded for the aspect of language. Next, let's move into the techniques of summary writing. I will share with you a few techniques to write your summary. So, for this, I will be using question 31 and the passage from English SPM 2019, paper 2 as an example. You can scan the QR code or go to the link t.ly/VOJI. Okay. First, read the question carefully. Look at the instruction and understand the task requirement. Then, identify the area that needs to be summarized. Second, identify and mark the area for summary. This is important so that you will not use points outside the prescribed text. This may cause you to lose marks in language. In the SPM 2019, you are required to use material from line 19 to line 43. So, get a pen or highlighter and mark the area by drawing a box around the area, or draw a line above line 19 and below line 43. This will help you to focus on the area that only needs to be summarized. As you can see on the screen, the one in the red box is the main focus of this summary. Now, let's return to the question paper and read the instructions again. Melissa faced problems when she was paragliding on March 2nd. When she was paragliding on March 2nd, based on the passage, write a summary on, number 1, the problem she faced, and what she did to try to overcome these problems. Credit will be given for use of own words, but care must be taken not to change the original meaning. Your summary must be in continuous writing form, not in note form. Use material from line 19 to 43, not be longer than 130 words, including the 10 words given below. Begin your summary as follows. Melissa decided to land after flying for 15 minutes, but once you have finished reading the instruction, identify important keywords to help you focus in the answering task. Be sure to not exceed the 130 word limit, including the 10 words that's given. Third, read the text within the box to get some ideas on what to summarize. Read from line 19 to line 43 again and look for information based on the task that you are required to summarize. Remember that your task is to look for, number 1, the problem Melissa had faced, and number 2, what Melissa did to try and overcome the problems. Next is to identify the content points. Look for the problems Melissa had faced and what are the ways she dealt with the problem. Usually, there would be about 10 to 13 content points related to the task. Mark your points with a pen or highlighter to keep track of it later. So here are the points. Begin falling at an alarming speed. Paraglider was not catching the wind in the way that it needed to. Quickly pulled her lines. The wing did not respond. Struggled to control the wing. Being tossed in all directions, or like tossed around inside a washing machine. Made a series of rapid turns. which had no effect. The following points: the ground was moving fast towards her, or the rice field was getting closer. Flapping the wing was one way of slowing down to land, but it was too late for that. Clumps of sharp bamboo. There was a 2-story farm building that she wanted to avoid. Noticed a stream just wide enough for her to land in. She decided that this was her best chance. And the final one is, wing got caught on the roof of the farm building. In case you missed the points, let me recap all the content points for you. So number 1, begin falling at an alarming speed. You can locate this in line 19. Number 2, paraglider was not catching the wind in the way that it needed to. You can locate this in line 20 to 21. Point number 3, quickly pulled her lines, line 22. The next content point, the wing did not respond, which is in line 23. Content number 4 would be dependent on content number 3. Alright, so number 5 is struggle to control the wing, which is in line 26. The next content point, being tossed around in all directions, like tossed around inside a washing machine. You can locate this in line 26 and line 27. Point number 7, made a series of rapid turns in line 29. Next, which had no effect in line 29. This content point is dependent on content point number 7. Next, content point number 8. The ground was moving fast towards her, or the rice field was getting closer. This is in line 35 to 36. Flapping the wing was one way of slowing down to land, but it was too late now for that. Line 37 to line 38. Content point number 10. Clumps of sharp bamboo. Line 39. Next we have, there was a 2-story farm building that she wanted to avoid. It's line 40. Number 12. Notice a stream just wide enough for her to land in. She decided that this was her best chance. So this is line 41 and 42. And your final content point would be, wing got caught on the roof of the farm building, which is in line 43. So there you have it, all the 13 content points all together. So before we start writing the content, your summary, make sure you have all your content points together, at least 10 all together. Number 5 would be to rewrite the points into your summary. What you need is to be selective and mention only what the question wants. Number 2, rephrase or use your own words if possible. Number 3, do not include elaborations, examples, and also repeated ideas. Number 4, rearrange the ideas accordingly. And the final one would be, begin with the 10 words that's given in the instructions. Since the accepted word limit is 130, this means you are only allowed to write only 120 words. Try not to write more than that, right? Next, and the final step would be to check and edit if necessary. When checking your summary, ask yourself these questions. Are there enough content points in your summary? Are the points paraphrased using your own words? If it was paraphrased, does the meaning change? Have I substituted some words of my own? Have I used a variety of sentences? And is my summary free from language errors? You should also take note of these when writing your summary. Do count the words and write at the bottom right of your summary. Questions asking for steps or processes need to follow the sequence according to how it was written in the passage. In sequence. You may lose marks if your sequence is out of order. And also, remember to change the pronoun from the first person point of view, I or we, to the third person point of view, he, she, or they. Okay. To help you count the words, these are some guide in indicating the word count in your summary. Number 1, for hyphenated words like left-handed and mother-in-law, this is considered as one word. As long as the hyphen is written, once hyphens are missing, words will be counted as individual words. For example, when you write left-handed without the hyphen, it will become 2 words. Same goes to mother-in-law. So when you have mother-in-law, 3 words, you have 3 individual words. Next, we have numbers. It is usually counted as how it is spelled. Okay, for example, you have the number 50. 50 is considered as or is spelled as F-I-F-T-Y. So it's 1 word. 500 is 2 words. And 550 is 4 words. Excuse me. I would suggest you avoid writing numbers as much as possible, as it will take up a lot of your word limit. Next, we have names. It is counted as how many words there are in the name. For example, the name Faith is considered as 1 word, whereas Faith Bakhtiar is considered as 2 words. If you need to include the person in your summary, try to replace them with pronouns rather than writing their names. Okay, next we have places. Kuantan is considered as 1 word. Teluk Cempedak is considered as 2 words, whereas Pahang State Education Department is considered as 4 words. So when you are counting your words in your summary, make sure you take account of all these word count. The hyphenated words, the numbers, the names, as well as places. That way you will know the exact amount of words in your summary. Alright, now that you've got the steps in summary writing, let's begin writing it. Please refer to the English SPM 2019, Paper 2, Section C, Summary Writing. You can either go to the link t.ly/voji or scan the QR code displayed to get your question paper. For students who wish to score high for language, students need to be able to demonstrate these when writing their summary. Under the aspects of paraphrase, in order to score the mark of 5, students need to sustain attempt to rephrase the content points, allow phrases or words which are difficult to substitute, and also have secure expression throughout the summary. As for use of English, students need to be able to use accurate language, points that are very well organized and coherent throughout, marked ability to use OCX, which is original complex sentences. As for the mark of 4, for paraphrase, there should be a noticeable attempt to rephrase the content points. The points are free from concentrated lifting and expression is generally fair. And as for use of English, language is largely accurate. There are noticeable serious errors, but not frequent. Points are well organized and coherent in most parts, and there is some ability to use OCP, which is original compound sentences, and also OCX, which is original complex sentences. In the marking descriptors, you notice that I mentioned OCP and OCX. Do you know what it means? In order to score high in language, students need to have the ability to use variety of sentence types. There are 4 types of sentence structures that students need to know, and it will help you in writing. First is simple sentence, which is one subject plus a predicate or an independent clause. Second, you have the compound sentence, where there are 2 or more independent clauses joined by coordinating conjunction. Third is complex sentence, which is one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses joined by a subordinating conjunction. And the final one is compound complex sentence, where you have 2 or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses joined by coordinating and subordinating conjunction. These are some examples taken from the passage. Content points that are in the form of simple sentences. Number 1 is in line 19. She began falling at an alarming speed. So this would be in content number 1. The word she is the subject, whereas began falling at an alarming speed is the predicate. This is the independent clause. In line 26, you will get she struggled to control the wind. Okay, this is content point number 5. And in line 39, directly below her, she could see clumps of sharp bamboo. That would be in content point number 10. A compound sentence. You can locate this in line 22. Okay? A compound sentence would be when there are 2 or more independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. I would advise my students to always remember fanboys. Fanboy stands for F is for, A and, N nor, B but, O is or, Y is yet, and S is so. So when I see the conjunction fanboys, I will know that that is a compound sentence. So line 35, you will see now that the ground was moving fast towards her and she could see the rice field getting ever closer. So this particular sentence is combined with the coordinate conjunction of and. Whereas in line 22, you will see the coordinating conjunction of so. She had been in a similar situation before, so she quickly pulled her lines. Whereas the third one, in line 37, you will see flapping the wing was one way of slowing down to land, but it was too late for that now. So you have 3 separate sentences which you can find in the passage which shows a compound sentence. Next, we have a complex sentence. It's when there is one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. This is joined by a subordinating conjunction. For example, you have after, although, because, before, how, it, if, once, since, and you also have relative pronouns, that, which, who, whom, and whose. For you to remember easier, whichever conjunction that is not in fanboys, which is F, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so, other than fanboys, it will become a subordinating conjunction. Okay? That's one way of to remember easier. All right. So for example, the sentences you can find in line 20, you have her paraglider was not catching the wind in the way that it needed to. The next one, line 26, she struggled to control the wing as she was being thrown in all directions. So basically there you can see that I've written down C5 and C6. So you have two content points in one sentence, right? And the next one, she made a series of rapid turns which had no effect. So you have content point C7 and C7A. Okay? And the final one is a compound complex sentence. So this is where you have two or more independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses joined by coordinating conjunction and also subordinating conjunction. Okay, so you have the first one in line 3, although that would be the subordinating conjunction, there were a few cloud patches in the sky, the wind was favorable. So that is a coordinating conjunction. She laid out her paraglider on the ground. Next, we have line 21 as, that would be subordinate. She had been in a similar situation before, so she quickly pulled her lines. And the final one, though she had touched down there successfully on a few previous occasions, but would she be able to this time? So you have a few examples of sentence structures in your essay or in your summary. Okay. Now that you know the sentence type, it will be much easier to understand how to rephrase the sentences. Okay. Remember earlier I mentioned in the mark descriptor that rephrasing will help you to score high marks in your summary in language. So rephrasing is basically expressing the same thing differently without changing the original meaning. It could still be text reliant where technical words are hard to substitute. So if you find that words are difficult to substitute or replace, just maintain the same word in your summary. Right? So let's go to the first example. Okay, rephrasing a simple sentence. From the passage, when you locate this simple sentence, suddenly she began falling at an alarming speed. So if you count the words one by one, this would be 8 words. Alright? So when you rephrase this sentence, meaning you change the sentence, okay, retaining the original meaning, so it will become, suddenly, she began losing altitude fast. Okay, so this is content point number 1. So if you recount the words again, instead of 8 words, you rephrase it and make it shorter, it will become 6 words only. Okay, so this is simple sentence. Now moving on, we have a compound sentence. Okay, from the passage, okay, we have, she had been in a similar situation before, so she quickly pulled her lines. This was something she had been taught to do in her training. This time, however, the wing did not respond. So if you count from she had been in a similar situation until did not respond, altogether this is 34 words. So when you rephrase this sentence, you have to make it shorter. It will become, she quickly pulled her lines. That will be content point number 3, but joined with a fanboys conjunction, the wing did not respond. So this will be 11 words altogether compared to if you were to lift everything from the passage, 34 words. Right? So do you see the difference when you paraphrase? So when you paraphrase or rephrase, you make the sentence shorter, whereas that way you are able to include more content points in your summary. Right? So moving on, we have rephrasing in complex sentence. From the passage, then beyond the building, she noticed a stream just wide enough for her to land in. She decided that this was her best chance. But as she was about to touch down, her wing got caught on the roof of the farm building. So if you count the words from then until the farm building, altogether there are 43 words. Okay, so let's try and rephrase. Okay, it will become an adequately wide stream caught her eye, but her wing caught on the farm's roof. That is content point 30. Conjoined with subordinating conjunction, which is as. She was about to land. So she is stating content point number 13 first, and then content point number 12. So you have two content points in one sentence. So if you look at the comparison, in the passage 43 words, but when you rephrase, it will become 21 words only. Okay, hopefully by now you can see the difference when you rephrase the sentences. But always remember to retain the meaning of that particular point. Okay, and the last one, rephrasing in compound complex sentence. From the passage, she had been in a similar situation before, so she quickly pulled her lines. This was something she had been taught to do in her training. This time, however, the wing did not respond. So altogether, this would be 34 words. Okay, now, let's rephrase. She yanked on her lines, as that is subordinate conjunction. She did before, but coordinate conjunction, the wing was not working with her. So basically, from 34 words, when we rephrase, we have cut it into short, half of it. So it will become 17 words. Okay, so you see the difference between the pink and the blue. So the one in the passage is quite long, wherever when you lift from the text. But when you rephrase it, it will become a lot shorter. This is why we want in your summary, you have to try and rephrase your sentences as much as possible. Okay? So I hope by now it is clear if you wish to to score high in language, you need to understand the importance of rephrasing and know the sentence structures on top of your language accuracy. So here are two examples of summary writing. So example number 1 rephrases all the content points, whereas example number 2 only combines the points together, which basically is just lifting from the passage. So by looking at these two examples, maybe you can decide which you are able to do in your examination. Okay, so let's look at it. Melissa decided to land after flying for 15 minutes, but, so remember, this is actually the 10 words that you need to include in your summary. Okay, she began losing altitude fast. Content point number 1. The wind was not cooperating with her paraglider. C2, as it should. She yanked her lines. C3, as she did before, but the wing was not working with her. That's C4. She was hurled by the wind. C6. Despite her attempt to seize control, her succession of quick turns were to no avail. So C7 and C7A. The ground closed in on her, C8, and the rice field began to enlarge. There was no time for her to reduce speed by flapping her wing, that is C9. She saw knife-like bamboos, that is C10. And then below her, she wished to avoid the 2-story farm building, C11, that she saw. An adequately wide stream caught her eye, but her wing caught on the farm's roof, C13, and she was about to land, that is C12. So if we count, we have C1, C2, C3, C4, C6, C7, 7A, C8, C9, C10, C11, C13, 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 content points. 13 or 12, 13. Okay? So in these 13 content points, the maximum mark for content is basically 10. So no matter how much content point you write, meaning exceed the 10, you will always get the maximum of 10. So this example, content is 10. Okay, so paraphrase would be 5. Okay, next. Paraphrase is, this is 128 words. Okay, so you have P5 for paraphrasing, because if you see throughout the whole summary, this particular example has actually paraphrased the whole content points. Whereas for use of English, language accuracy, since there is not much errors, or the errors are not glaring, this particular example has received 5 for UE as well. So the total for language is 10. Remember, divide by 2. So 10 divided by 2 equals to 5. Basically, 5 is actually your marks for language. And your content is 10. So your total would be 15 out of 15. Okay? So the next example, we have example number 2. Right? So Melissa decided to land after flying for 15 minutes, but she began falling at an alarming speed. C1. Her paraglider was not catching the wind. C2. In the way that it needed to, so she quickly pulled her lines. C3. As he had been in similar situation before. So if you notice there is one error, he. Okay? So that particular person, if we can recall, Melissa is actually a female. So this is actually one error. Been in similar situation before. Okay, so she was being thrown in all direction after she struggling. Okay, again, another error. There should be after she was struggling to control the wing. Okay, that's C5. She started remembering her instructor describing an ordeal he had once been through. So if you notice, I wrote IR. IR means irrelevant point. Since this is not a content point, it is irrelevant. Marks will not be deducted. However, it will not be counted as a point. Okay. Melissa showed her calmness, but she just flapping the wing to slow down. There is an error again around there to land, but it was too late as the ground moving towards her. That is C8. She tried to avoid the 2-story farm building, C11, near the edge of the field, but her wing caught on the roof, C13, of the farm building. Okay, so we only have about C1, C2, C3, C6, C5, C8, C11, and C13. All together is 122 words. Now let's look at the marks. So we have, since these particular students did not paraphrase, merely lifting from the text or the passage, P is only 3. Okay, and the errors in the example is not so glaring, but it's becoming quite frequent. So the marks again is only 3. Okay, so total for language is 6. Divided by 2, so we have a total of 3. So that particular 3 is your marks for language. Okay, and the content point, if we count again from the beginning, there is only 8 content points. So if you calculate 8 plus 3, it will become 11. So 11 out of 15. Okay, so that will be the marks. Now, you have seen how a summary is written. Let's do a little bit of recap of what you have learned today. Read the question carefully to get an idea of what you need to do. Next, identify and mark the area of passage you need to summarize. Next, read the text within the box you have drawn. This is to help you focus in what to summarize. And then number 4, identify the content points. Number 5 would be rewriting the points into your summary. Remember, try to rephrase as much as possible and use a variety of sentence structure. So that way it will increase your marks for language. Whereas the final one would be check and edit if necessary. So basically, if you are not confident in rephrasing your summary, don't worry because this is not the end of the world. Okay? If you are not capable of rephrasing, it is possible that you can just lift your content points from the text. It is not a problem. That way, instead of losing marks in language, you can actually retain your marks for content point. Okay? So I guess that is all for today. Okay? If there's any question, feel free to ask, and best of luck in your SPM. Okay? Thank you and bye. Bye-bye. Gato.